So what is authorship? The term author is used to indicate someone's role in the development of research products like published articles and books, conference posters and presentations, or even tools and apps. Because authorship is so important in research, multiple groups have worked to create authorship credit standards. While no universal standard has been established, existing guidelines agree that at a minimum, authorship requires a substantial contribution to and accountability for a work. So let's focus on what counts as a substantial contribution. Determining this can be a challenge. Consider the following story about a 4-person collaborative lab team. Who would you name as an author on a manuscript resulting from their project? Jack is a graduate student working on his thesis under Dr. Perry's direction. Jack designs an experiment based on a prior experiment by Joan, a postdoctoral fellow in Dr. Perry's lab. Jenny, an undergraduate research assistant, also works in Dr. Perry's lab and is helping with Jack's study. When Jack proposes an initial experimental design for the study in a lab meeting, Joan offers suggestions to address some of the limitations of her previous work, ultimately making the team's new study stronger. Dr. Perry contributes additional guidance on best practices for sampling and controls. After solidifying the design, Jack conducts the experiments, cleans the data, and presents the analysis plan in the next lab meeting. Dr. Perry suggests the team try a different type of analysis, and the group agrees. Jack then asks Jenny to run some of the preliminary analyses. After reviewing her work, Jack runs the main analyses and presents the results along with his interpretations to the team. Dr. Perry and Joan offer more refined interpretations for a few findings, but overall, the team agrees with Jack's initial interpretations. Dr. Perry sends Jack off to write the first draft of the manuscript. Jack and Dr. Perry then spend the next month passing the manuscript back and forth as they revise subsequent drafts. They finally decide that the manuscript is ready for submission at a top journal in their field. Many people would agree that Jack and Dr. Perry should be authors on the manuscript. But what about Joan, postdoctoral fellow, and Jenny, the undergraduate research assistant? At what point does Jenny's data analysis rise to the level of a significant contribution? And would the project even exist without Joan's idea and contributions to the research design? When we ask these questions, we begin to see the complexity of distributing authorship credit in collaborative research. What counts as authorship may vary significantly by discipline or field too. This makes distributing credit even more complicated in interdisciplinary research. When collaborators come and go across the life of a project, keeping track of contributions can be hard. Sometimes the amount of time spent on a project is not directly proportional to the significance of the contribution. This can be both confusing and frustrating, especially for early career scholars. Sometimes thinking about contributions that don't merit authorship can help us see which contributions do. For example, providing lab space or tools, conducting routine technical work, or editing a manuscript may not meet expectations for authorship credit in some disciplines. So where can we turn for more information on distributing authorship credit? Many journals and professional associations now offer guidelines on this topic. Notably, the first known academic authorship guidelines have undergone numerous revisions since they were established at the 1978 Vancouver Convention, when a group of medical journal editors gathered to address issues related to distributing authorship credit. Today, other groups and publications look to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors for their recommendations because of their pioneering role in this debate. The ICMJE currently recommends that authorship be reserved for individuals who make substantial contributions to the work in terms of concept, design, or the acquisition, analysis, or interpretation of data discussed in the work, draft the work or revise it critically for important intellectual content, grant final approval for the version to be published, and agree to be accountable for all aspects of the work, ensuring that questions related to the accuracy or integrity of any part of it will be appropriately investigated and resolved. According to these guidelines, any contributors who do not meet all 4 of these criteria should not be named as authors. Instead, they should be listed in a dedicated acknowledgement section of the work. Guidelines such as these are helpful for determining authorship in collaborative publications. So far, we've discussed who gets to be named as an author on a research product, but another set of challenges arises in deciding the order in which those author names appear. This is important because the order of author names may imply the amount or relative importance of each author's contribution. Like authorship naming, authorship ordering practices can vary by discipline. Often, author order is decided based on someone's role within the project. Here are some terms used to describe a few common author roles. A corresponding author is someone identified as responsible for communicating between the publisher and collaborators for manuscripts submitted for publication consideration. A lead author is someone who has taken a prominent role in generating research ideas, conducting research, and drafting a manuscript. There may be more than one lead author on a research product, and these criteria may vary by discipline. A principal investigator is the individual usually identified as such on grant proposals and sponsored research. An individual who leads a research project may occasionally be identified as a principal investigator, even if the research project is not sponsored by external funding. Author order may or may not correspond to these role designations. For example, in some disciplines, the principal investigator may always be listed first, even if that person is not the lead author on the product. This can be especially confusing in interdisciplinary research when the disciplines represented have different conventions, or for those new to a field who have not yet learned the norms in their discipline. Authorship naming and ordering can be a challenge to navigate, but there are resources to help. Talk with someone in your discipline, look into guidelines from disciplinary committees and societies, or ask the editorial office where you intend to submit a manuscript if they have established definitions for authorship on publications.